Is there a part of us that never dies? The idea of an immortal soul, a spiritual essence that survives death, has captivated humans for millennia. Across cultures and religions, people have imagined that some aspect of the self lives on after the body dies. Not everyone agrees, however, on what the soul is or if it exists at all. Some thinkers have denied the existence of any soul, while others insist our true self is an immaterial spirit that outlives the flesh. In Western philosophy, Plato made a famous case for the soul's immortality. In his dialogue Phaedo, set during Socrates' final moments, Socrates comforts his friends by saying death will not destroy his soul. Plato describes the body as a prison for the soul, which pre-exists birth and will continue on after death. When the body dies, the soul returns to a higher, non-physical realm of eternal forms where it truly belongs. Plato gave several arguments to defend the soul's immortality. 1. Cycle of opposites. Life comes from death and death from life, forming an eternal cycle. Thus, the souls of the dead must exist in some unseen realm so they can be born again into the world of the living. 2. Recollection of truths. We possess knowledge, for example, abstract ideas, that we never learned in this life, suggesting our souls existed before birth and acquired that knowledge earlier. If the soul existed prior to life, it logically should persist after death as well. 3. Indestructible essence. The soul has no composite parts, unlike the body which can fall apart. Only things that can break into pieces can be destroyed, therefore an indivisible, simple soul cannot perish and must be immortal. Belief in an eternal soul is not confined to the West. In ancient India, Hindu philosophy introduced the concept of the Atman, the true self or soul, regarded as an eternal, imperishable essence. According to Hindu doctrine, this Atman transmigrates from one body to another through reincarnation. After one body's death it is reborn in another, continuing its journey until attaining final liberation, moksha, and reuniting with the supreme reality, Brahman. The Bhagavad Gita famously declares that the soul is neither born nor does it die, describing it as unchanging, eternal, and untouched by physical harm. In contrast, Buddhist philosophy denies any permanent soul. Buddhism's doctrine of anat, no self, holds that what we call an individual is really just a bundle of ever-changing physical and mental processes, with no enduring spiritual core. Clinging to the illusion of a permanent self is seen as the root of suffering, and enlightenment, nirvana, comes from accepting that no eternal soul exists to begin with. Apart from Buddhism, most major faiths have embraced some form of belief in an immortal soul or spirit. Christianity, for example, teaches that each person's soul is immortal and destined for an afterlife. In Christian thought, death is the separation of soul and body. The soul leaves the body and continues to exist, and at the end of time it will reunite with a resurrected body on Judgment Day. Medieval thinkers like Thomas Aquinas argued that because the soul is non-material it cannot decay as the physical body does, and thus it is naturally indestructible and eternal. Similarly, Islam, Judaism and many other traditions also affirm that a spiritual essence of the person survives after death, to face final judgment, inhabit an afterworld, or be reborn in another life. The Enlightenment brought new philosophical perspectives. For example, Immanuel Kant reasoned that the soul's immortality is a necessary postulate for morality. In Kant's view, perfect justice and full virtue could only be achieved if the soul lived beyond a single earthly life, since human beings cannot attain moral perfection in one finite existence. In modern times, the notion of an undying soul has met with skepticism from science and secular philosophy. Materialist thinkers argue that mind and consciousness arise entirely from the functioning of the physical brain, so when the brain stops, the person or soul ceases to exist as well. Findings in modern neuroscience reinforce this stance by showing the mind's heavy dependence on the brain, which is hard to reconcile with the idea of a separate, immortal soul. From this perspective, death is the definitive end of the individual. Even so, the enigma persists. Some people today continue to explore the possibility that something of us might survive death. Researchers in fields like parapsychology still search for evidence of an afterlife, for example, studying near-death experiences or alleged paranormal phenomena, although mainstream science does not accept such claims as valid proof. At the same time, others turn to technology in pursuit of a kind of immortality, for instance, investigating whether a human mind could be uploaded into a computer to preserve one's consciousness digitally beyond physical death. Whether scientific or speculative, these efforts show that humanity remains fascinated by the question of life after death. After centuries of debate, the immortality of the soul remains a profound mystery. It stands at the crossroads of faith, philosophy, and science, inviting each generation to reflect on what might lie beyond death. Ultimately, whether some aspect of us lives on or fades away is a matter of belief and hope, a reflection of humanity's enduring desire that perhaps death is not the absolute end.